Welcome to the Spiritual and Cosmic Podcast with Lady D, the podcast where the mystical meets every day. I'm your host, Lady D, psychic, medium, astrologer, spiritual guide, and cosmic truth teller. Each week we'll dive into real talk about living in a spiritual life in a human world. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the messy, and in between. From psychic insights, astrology breakdowns, to soulful chats and cosmic truths. This is your sacred space to awaken, expand, and keep it 100% real. So grab your crystals, open your heart, and let's get spiritual and cosmic. Hello, welcome back to Spiritual and Cosmic with Lady D. I'm your host, Lady D, psychic, medium, astrologer, and spiritual educator. Today's episode tackles a topic that may be a little bit uncomfortable for some people, but I believe it's an important conversation to have. Have you ever heard someone say, "Spirit told me to do it," or maybe "my guides made me do it," or that I was led to do this? Perhaps you've even seen people blame their behaviour on Mercury retrograde, karma, energy, or spirit self. But where do we draw the line between spirit guides and personal responsibility? Can spirit really make us do something, or are we ultimately responsible for our own choices and actions? Today, we're exploring accountability in the spiritual world, why it's important to our own decisions, and whether sometimes spirituality can be used as an excuse instead of a tool of growth. This episode isn't about attacking anyone. It's about encouraging honesty and self-awareness and integrity within our spiritual communities. So grab a tea, get comfortable. Let's dive into today's conversation. Spirit made me do it. Taking ownership in the spiritual world. So, in this episode, it's all about accountability in the spiritual world. So you'll often find that you'll hear a lot of readers and people in this community, and they'll say, Spirit told me to do this, and I was led to do that, or they said this. It happens a lot, and sometimes we're going to go through some points here. So when readers do this, can psychics sometimes use spirit in a way to avoid responsibility? I do believe 100% they do. I think they use it as an excuse to be able to say what they want to say instead of just taking ownership for their own actions or for what they want to do. And I think that there is a personal choice, because we're also going to look at what the difference between general guide, like actually generally getting guidance. So, and we'll also cover in this episode too, how to respectfully challenge behavior within the spiritual community, and the difference between I was guided to do this and spirit made me do it as well. Now, I mean, I'll often say to people, even my friends, I got this, I was getting this, and I feel like that's quite normal to do. I remember once I parked in a spot where I shouldn't actually be parking there. It was for like I think it was like tow trucks. Anyway, cars weren't meant to park there, but I parked in this spot. It was a quiet street, and I was getting some ice cream with my sister at the time. It was years ago now, and I parked there. And I just had this feeling that I shouldn't have parked there, and my sister was like, "Oh, it's fine." Anyway, parked there, and a tow truck came down, and it actually took the front bit of my car off. They helped put it back on, and they had insurance, so it was all good. But my car was damaged, and it was their fault. But I shouldn't have been parking there. And I got this download, this feeling, whatever you want to call it, of not to park there. But I went against it, and I did. Now, life, every download, and you could be drawn to going down a path, and it doesn't lead you anywhere. It leads you into something bad happening. But we all have a soul contract, so we're all meant to do things because our soul's here to grow and to learn. So what I learned from that experience, that maybe I should listen, pay attention to my intuition a bit more. And it was a lesson that I had to go through, and I did learn. But even sometimes, you just get these feelings, and you go out and bad things happen. It just happens. I'm not blaming it on my guides. I take ownership for it. And when you take ownership for these things that happen, I feel like it helps you to grow as well, But there's also this manipulation in the community with people as well. Early on, when I first started working in this industry, I used to go to a lot of fairs with one lady, and I used to do a lot of driving. I would be the one that's doing all the driving and organizing everything too. And she would come along. She was a lot older than me, but often when you would speak to her, she would say things like, they told me to do this, or they told me they made me not call you. Um, I remember once we to actually went to her house, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to call you, but they stopped me from calling you." I was like, "Okay, it's a bit strange," and people saying that. And my driving, she would be like, "They're telling me you have to change lanes now. They're telling me you got to turn left now. They're telling me this." And I remember when she was saying about turning, there's oncoming traffic coming, I was just like, "Oh, I'm going to go when I'm going to go." And at one point, we're going into a car lot, and oncoming traffic was coming, and a lady in the back just actually said she can't actually go now because there's cars coming. And then she replied with, "Oh yes, they're telling me not to go now." So I think it's out of habit of her saying that, but I think she just needs to say maybe she was a Virgo, so she's probably being a bit nitpicky, perfectionist, and just wanted me to hurry up. But sometimes when I drive, I'm a good driver. Sometimes I can be a little bit cautious, and I'll make sure that the road is clear. It's just who I am, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Another time where I actually got quite excited because we met going to the spiritualist church that day. We're meeting outside, and she goes, "Oh, afterwards, I've got a message from my guides from you." And I got really excited, thinking, "Oh wow, I'm going to get a reading. Like, what have her guides got to tell me?" Well, once we always had dinner after we had the service, and it was basically a whole half an hour of her just going off at me, what she didn't like about my personality, or didn't like about me, basically. And it was meant to be all from her guides. Now, do I think that was all from her guides? No, a half an hour. Usually you get like a couple of sentences, and it's an exchange of energy, not a whole rant. And it did make me angry. And it was when I was sort of learning to use my voice. But for me, it's like things happen, and depending on what it is, like I will sort of keep it under wrap tighter, and I won't really react to it. But then I get to a point where, it's like the box kind of overfills and it can't keep any more in the box, and I will then react and sort of say what I feel. And at this point, I was getting to this lady because it wasn't just me that she was saying this stuff to. She actually said it to another friend as well, on other occasions. So it's just, she just needed to take ownership and saying this is her. And part of it, like, when I'm just starting out, and I had a lot of, I've said this before on my podcast, that I had to work twice as hard as other people, I felt, because when I started, even now I'm like one of the youngest readers, and now there's a lot of people coming out similar age as me, but I'm still one of the younger ones. And therefore people would often pick the older ladies in the reading room, and they may not have had as experience as I had, but they chose them because it can be an ageist industry. So this lady, she'd always get more readings than I did. But she would, and I say frustrated, because she would say, "I'm not a psychic. I don't predict the future." And I'm like, "Well, what's the point of your reading if you're not predicting the future?" Because that's what people are coming for. If I know for myself, if I'm going to a reading, I want to know what's going to happen. But yeah, but anyway, I remember one time she said to me that she demands from her guides that she gets 10 people at a fair. And then if she didn't get it, she often say, "Oh, they don't want me to work today," or some excuse. But anyway, with this part of this branch going off at me, it was about that. It's basically she was better than me. That's right. She was getting more readings than me, and all this stuff. And that wasn't true, because I had actually gotten feedback from clients that had gone to her, and that was not the case. Anyways, enough ranting. She should have taken ownership of that and not blamed her guides. But it got to the point where nearly every sentence she would be saying, "They're telling me this and they're telling me that." And I start tuning out, and I get bored, and I start distancing myself. That's what I did with her. I distanced myself from her. I didn't want to share a stand with her anymore, and I kind of backed out. And there was other things going on as well, but I had to, and that's when I started making plans on how am I going to back out of this, which I did. There's also, I have another friend, who will use the words that she's been led, other than just saying something like, I'm going to go away for the weekend. Just say to me, oh, I have been guided that I need to take some time out because I've been sick and I need to rest and stay home and focus on myself because I get downloads. Which is it's a fine thing to say. I don't know, I think it's just a common sense thing, but then actually go away for the weekend. Or, be say, I've been led to do something and then slip up and say, oh, I'm waiting till being invited for something. So sometimes I'll slip up, but they use this excuse of that they've been guided, they've been downloaded with this information, and it's to get what they want. And it's to avoid accountability. It's to avoid of, I feel like, maybe sometimes conflict. It is an excuse as well. And doing these things is limiting their growth because at the same time, it can be also they're not the ones to blame. That they can do what they like. It kind of reminds me of like religion. You know, you do something wrong, you go and do something else, and it's okay. Or if I go to church, it's okay if I do this. It sort of comes in a little bit of that same context, I feel. But if they just be honest and just say what they think, I think that they'll get more, people will respect them more as well. Um, and like even in readings, like I'll often say to my clients, this is not me being psychic, and I'll just tell them what I feel too. I won't know, I won't actually go, well, my guides are telling me to make it up. I don't do that. And I think that's very, very wrong. Um, so I think that this is something that happens a lot in the community. And I think that it's something that needs to be, I want to say, maybe pulled up a bit more. And I think that, have you had experiences with other people? How does it made you feel? I know for me, I get sort of frustrated with it. I remember once I wanted to cancel a show that I was doing because tickets weren't selling. There were some issues with the advertising, and I wanted to cancel because I thought it's not worth my time. And the person I was doing it with was like, "Oh no, I don't want to cancel because I've been guided and led that there's going to be 16 people up the door. There's going to be all these people at the door." And I was like hesitant, but in the end, I have this thing of not letting people down. And I didn't want to let her down. So I'm like, oh, okay, I agreed to it. Heads up, there were no 16 people at the door. There were people that came, a few people, not many, um, but not 16, not close to 16 either. So, and I think sometimes it's used to get what they want as well. That's something, it's to get what they want. And sometimes life isn't about getting what you want. So it's an interesting topic to have. But I said, have you experiences with people where they don't take accountability and they blame it on spirit, blame it on their guides, they blame it on someone else? One thing I do, and I think you can get, I guess, learn from these things. Like, so with Mercury retrogrades, so I know number one, when it comes to Mercury retrograde, I've learnt the hard way not to drive behind trucks on the highway because where I go to my work, I have to drive on a highway. And most places I get to, I have to go on the highway because I live near the highway. I have learnt that when I drive behind a truck, a rock comes and hits my window and I've got to replace it. It's happened at least 3 times. So now, especially in Mercury retrograde, I try my very, very best not to drive behind a truck. I avoid it. I go in different lanes because chances are I'm going to get that. Now, I'm not going to blame those things, and I might go, if something like that does happen, I'll go, damn that Mercury retrograde. But, it happens. At the same time, I believe things are just meant to happen. And this hasn't happened, but as a hypothetical, maybe I meant to go and get my car fixed, and that person sees the sign on my car, and they call me up for a reading. If I hadn't had that happen, then yeah, and that has happened where I've gone and forgotten something, gone up to the shop to get what I've forgotten, and then someone has seen my sign and called me up and then asked to book in for a reading. So sometimes things just happen for a reason. We don't have to blame things for it. And I mean, sometimes we like to blame Mercury retrograde when communication gets a bit haywire. technology does not work in our favor, and really like to blame it. So let's wrap up this podcast. So thank you for joining me in today's episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone used spirituality as an excuse for their actions? Or do you believe there are times when spiritual guidance can strongly influence our decisions? For me, spirituality isn't about giving away our power. It's about becoming more aware of ourselves, taking greater responsibility for the lives that we create. We spiritual inspire us, sometimes even warn us. But at the end of the day, we are still the ones making those decisions and those choices. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might find this discussion interesting. You can connect with me through Lady D Psychic Parties, follow me on social media, or join me on one of my upcoming events and workshops. Until next time, trust your intuition, stay curious, and remember that true spiritual growth comes from both awareness and accountability. So I'm Lady D, and this has been Spiritual and Cosmic. Take care, and I'll see you for the next episode.